So at the end of the last video, I think it was decided I'm gonna do an underwater world, but I still like the idea of having a place that's near the water and not necessarily below. So I'm gonna focus on 2 locations. So if you've seen Arcane, then you know that they had the Undercity and they had the Overcity or Upper City, I'm not sure. And so I wanna do something similar, except they're not gonna be at war with each other. One place isn't gonna be worse than the other, but they are gonna be 2 distinct places. So right now my main thing is figuring out the differences between these places as well as the similarities. While I spent the last week just trying to look up how do I world build, I found a lot of resources kind of say the same thing, which was start with a map.
This means creating an in-depth sketch of the fictitious world, right down to the landscape of the place.
Now, if we want to start from the absolute beginning, we'll set up a topographical map.
Step 1 is basically to sketch out a map.
But I also kind of don't want to do that. I don't think that part is very fun. I do want to have a map, but I feel like the map will come after I have a better understanding of both of these places. So I actually care more about travel, resources, and architecture and how they impact and influence these worlds, because I want them to be very distinct places, but I also want them to feel like they are meant to be in the same world. So this got me thinking, especially in terms of resources, they both have to be able to provide the other place something that they can't get. And what would mermaids living in the ocean have that humans living above land have? And that's probably the ability to breathe underwater. So I thought, what if there's like this magical plant underwater that allows people to breathe underwater for a short amount of time? That could be interesting. The mermaids would have no use for it because they already have gills. And in the next episode, I'm actually going to talk more about how my mermaids are going to work, because I don't want them to be mammals in the sense of they only have lungs, but I'll talk about that in the next video. Anyways, so the mermaids don't need this magical plant because they can already breathe underwater. So they give that to the humans, and in return, the humans are giving them tools and helping them be able to build more architecture underwater. So they have this give and take relationship that really benefits both of them. And ultimately, just like in real life, we're really curious about the ocean. These humans are very curious about what goes on down there, how do things work, and the mermaids who have never been on land are also very curious about what the human world is like. I want to think of more resources that both of them can exchange with each other, but I really like this idea of magical plants and then like tools and architecture for now. So when it comes to travel, I really thought about how could both of these places be similar and different. That is really important to me. I want them to almost mirror each other yet be very distinct, and I keep saying that because I feel like if there are similarities, then that can help them bond in a sense, but I want it to be different enough where they don't quite trust each other. Not for any plot purpose at this point, but just I think, you know, a little healthy level of distrust is good between 2 opposing groups in a fantasy setting anyways. I want there to be something that you just can't do underwater that you can do on land, and vice versa. So what can't you do underwater? That's kind of like fly. So I want to have dragons in the coastal town, but not like these big beefy dragons, more like the Chinese or Japanese dragons where they're more serpentine. I'm also thinking they're not going to have wings and they're not going to actually be able to fly. I like the idea of whenever they're not on land, they are able to create something like a hardened surface to walk on top of, and they can be very fast. So people in the coastal town can get on these dragons and kind of walk on air to get to other places or walk on water. Now, I don't want these dragons to be able to go into the water and survive, so they're definitely a land creature. Also, I don't want dragons to just be readily available for anyone to use, so this is gonna more so be for more wealthy people, and there could be like someone that allows people to use dragons for a fee, but the majority of people won't own their own dragon. So similarly underwater, mermaids are not going to use a sea creature to travel, they're gonna just swim on their own. However, when a coastal person goes down into the underwater world, they will have a mermaid guide, and that mermaid guide can communicate to a sea serpent telepathically and be like, hey, can you like let this human get on your back and take them to wherever they need to go? We're kind of working together. And so the sea serpent, who is a friend of the mermaid, will allow these humans to get on its back for a short period of time to do what they need to do. These sea serpents will not be able to go above water. They are only able to live underwater, but they're gonna look very similar in my mind to the dragons, but maybe a little bit smaller. Another idea that I have for both the coastal town and underwater is this idea of a portal where you can like step through something and then end up in another part of town. So in the coastal town, it would be you can step through a mirror maybe, and I'm thinking this could be another kind of magical thing that the mermaids have given the humans, where it can apply to a surface and they're able to step through. I haven't really thought about it too much in detail, but I do like the idea of this kind of mirror portal. And then for the mermaids, they're not gonna step through a mirror, but they have these like pools of water that they can like dive into, and it takes them to another part of the ocean. I don't know, I like the idea. Tell me what y'all think, because I think it'd be really cool to kind of get your feedback and make changes as I work on this world. Okay, that's it for travel for now. Again, not too many ideas, but I really wanted to have like a good place to start. This whole process of world building for me right now is giving myself just little bits of information, and then I'll have a okay world, and then I can go back and see what things I really need to build out more. But I just really don't want to fall into the trap of spending years on world building, which a lot of people do, and that is totally fine. But I'm actually starting to develop an idea for this book, and I need to write it. But before I write it, I would like to have this world mostly figured out. But anyways, the last part of this was architecture. And this kind of goes back to the whole resources thing. So below water, I do want it to be like an actual underwater town of sorts. I don't think they need to have like shopping malls and things like that. They're mermaids, and I really don't want them to just feel like humans that live underwater. I want them to be their own distinct creature with different passions and goals and interests that are not human-like. So they're not interested in shopping and clothing, they've got a tail, and I haven't decided what their upper part is going to look like in terms of clothing, but it's just really important to me that they're not like humans. I want them to have the appearance but not the same mindset of a human. But even with that said, I still don't want them to just live in like dingy caves. I don't want them to be like the caveman from years ago, living in like huts or something like that in like caves. I want them to be more evolved with the help of the humans. So maybe they did start off living in caves. They were living very much with their animal friends. However, with humans coming in contact with them many years ago, they've kind of elevated their status, just like in real life when there has been trade between different groups and other groups have introduced new ways of doing things that might be better and more advanced. So I kind of want to add that into the underwater world while still having them remain different. So I haven't fully figured out how that's gonna look, but I am thinking it's gonna be like these really beautiful homes made of like, I don't know, like coral and rock, and they're gonna have a bit more privacy, so they start to differentiate and separate from just the regular other fish that are not as intelligent as them. And then above water, I think that might be the hardest part for me to think about, because I definitely want it to feel older. So I think the architecture is something I'm really gonna have to think about, like what do I want these towns to look like? I keep on saying that it's coastal. I do want it to have beachy vibes, but what does that really mean? So I'll probably need to look at some photos to figure that out. And then just thinking about this as a whole, like what does the government look like? You know, I want to have a different government for underwater versus above water. I like the idea of the mermaids kind of having this democracy. Before the humans came along, they were all like their own different tribes, so they didn't really have one leader. And then once they decided that they wanted to have more communication with the humans to get these resources, I think they should have maybe elected a couple of people, maybe the leader of each tribe, to kind of form one democratic body. And as time goes on, they re-elect different leaders. And then on the other spectrum, in the coastal town, I like the idea of them being royalty. Not necessarily kings and queens, maybe I'll use emperor or a different term, but regardless, the whole idea is still royalty, and the ruler is just the next of kin. But yeah, those are my ideas for now. I would love to know what you think down in the comments below. Share your thoughts, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. And in the next video, like I said, I will be talking more about the creatures, because I have a very specific vision in mind for the traveling with the serpents and the dragons. So stay tuned for that one.